All right, everybody, we're going to get started shortly, so grab a seat or a good standing room spot, whatever suits you this afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to the City Club of Eugene's March 15th, 2024 program featuring the candidates to be the next mayor of Eugene. My name is Andrew Kallick and I am City Club's president. Today's forum, as well as our upcoming forum featuring City Council, Oregon, a trusted and positive force for social change, using the experience and leadership of volunteer members to benefit all Oregonians as we age. We really appreciate AARP Oregon's support, and you can find more information about them at states.aarp.org/Oregon. Today we're coming to you from Carlita's Restaurant at the Gordon Hotel in the heart of downtown Eugene, and it's my pleasure to extend a warm welcome to our speakers and to all of you joining us in person, online, and over the radio. For 3 decades, the City Club of Eugene has remained dedicated to its founding mission, to build community vision through open inquiry. In accordance with our mission and purpose, we hope to help connect people throughout our community and across generations, identities, experiences, and perspectives. You are invited this week and every week to join us in this effort, to share your wisdom, learn something new, and take active steps to make a difference in this city and region we all love. We cannot do this work alone, so I want to send a special thank you to our Platinum Community and Diamond sponsors. The Eugene Area Chamber of Commerce, serving as a catalytic leader in creating a vibrant and diverse economy that drives economic opportunity and well-being. Kaiser Permanente, which exists to provide high-quality, affordable healthcare services and to improve the health of our members and the communities we serve. More information at www.kp.org. The University of Oregon has helped Oregonians question critically, think logically, reason effectively, communicate clearly, act creatively, and live ethically since 1876. Get more information at uoregon.edu. Peace Health has been proud to serve Eugene, Lane County, and beyond as your hometown healthcare partner for more than 80 years. The Peace Health mission is to keep you and your family healthy. Learn more at peacehealth.org. Lane Community College transforms lives through learning. LCC provides comprehensive, accessible, high-quality educational opportunities that promote student success. For more information, visit lanecc.edu. And thank you to the City of Eugene and Lane County for their support as well. Whether you're joining us for the first time or you're a longtime listener, I invite you to support our work by becoming a member, a business or community sponsor, or volunteering to be part of a committee or even our board. You can do all those things and more at cityclubofeugene.org. With that, I'll turn the microphone over to KLCC's Rebecca Hanson-White, who will moderate today's program. Rebecca.
Hello, welcome everyone today. Thank you so much. I'm Rebecca Hanson-White, a reporter at KLCC. I'll be moderating today with our 3 candidates for Mayor of Eugene, and I'm going to invite them up to the stage. We have Kaarin Knudson, Shanae Joyce-Stringer, and Stefan Strek. If you could come up to the stage. And we determined the order, we're just going to get started right away. We determined the order via pieces of paper in a hat for our opening statements. Each of our candidates is going to give an opening statement in just a second. We're going to start with Kaarin. All right. So we're just going to get started right away. If Kaarin, you want to start, after that we will have questions.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. It's lovely to be here today. My name is Kaarin Knudson, and I'm an architect, educator, housing advocate, and small business owner, and I would love to earn your vote to be the next mayor of Eugene. I believe in Eugene's bright future. I've worked and volunteered in our community for over 20 years, and I'm both prepared for and truly excited about what we can accomplish in this next and new chapter. As an architect, my work has been focused on sustainable urban design and addressing our housing crisis. And this background is a unique strength that I would bring to the mayoral office. Though I come to this campaign from outside of politics, I'm deeply proud to have earned the endorsements of more than 200 community leaders all across Eugene, including our current and former mayors, Lucy Vinnis, Kitty Piercy, as well as other electeds and environmental, business, housing, labor, and education organizations. I believe in our bright future, but to realize that future together, we'll need to meet our current challenges head on, especially our housing and homelessness crisis. In that area and others, I have a proven track record of bringing people together and turning words into real, measurable progress, including helping to create more than $45 million in new affordable housing through Eugene's first Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and leading the most pro-affordability and pro-racial justice housing reforms in our city's history. Right now, I'm part of an emerging cross-sector coalition working to end homelessness, and I believe that we can do it. The real work that we have ahead of us is challenging, but so important to our shared future, so worthy of the best efforts that we can bring. I'm ready to help us do this work, and I hope to earn your vote to be the next mayor of Eugene. Thank you very much.
Hello, good day. Thank you, City Club, for putting this on. I really appreciate everybody coming down here. I know the paperwork went through only recently, but this is actually something I've been working on for over 7 years now, campaigning to be the next mayor of Eugene. And I really appreciate all the interest that everyone has put into this. Really had a lot of fun at the last City Club meeting. I know I brought Girl Scout cookies before, and I apologize to anyone who was expecting that this time. So nobody's perfect. But I do believe that this is a great opportunity to raise conversation about what everyone in Eugene can do better to make our city a more welcoming place for people from all over the world. We really represent a special place. I really do think we meet the definition, the gem of the Emerald Valley, or the Emerald City, gem of the Willamette Valley. Yeah, totally. And it means a lot to have so many people that care about civic engagement. So thank you all tonight, and especially AARP folks. I really do hope that we can not just have new housing, but do things like give tax breaks to senior citizens to help maintain their homes and really help this city shine. So thank you so much. I'll pass the mic on.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It is definitely an honor to be here with City Club of Eugene and all of its residents. I stand before you honored to be a candidate for mayor of the great city of Eugene. I want all of you to know that I am dedicated to this community and all of its residents. As an educator with experience of over 17 years of service, as a small business owner and community advocate, I've had the pleasure and privilege to serve in a variety of capacities within this community. I have seen the richness and diversity that our community has to offer, which is why I want to ensure that every voice is heard and that every resident is represented in our local governance. Whether you live in the heart of downtown or the outskirts of our city, I want you to know that if you are a working parent, a business owner, even a student, whether you're experiencing houselessness or a renter just like me, your concerns definitely matter to me. As future mayor, I want to ensure that we bridge divide, foster unity, as well as create opportunities for everyone to thrive. Eugenians, it's important to know that I see you, I hear you, and that I am you, and together we can move Eugene forward.
And thank you so much, candidates. Our first question will be asked by a representative from the AARP.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be here. We are looking at a changing demographic. According to the U.S. Census, more than or almost 40% of Eugene residents are 50 and older. By the year 2034, there will be more adults over the age of 65 living in Eugene than there are children under the age of 18. That is a demographic change we're going to see all over the world. What will you do as mayor to ensure that you are addressing the needs of older adults and people with disabilities, while at the same time engaging those demographics because of the great resources that they bring to the table?
Kaarin, if you want to take that question first.
Thank you. Thank you for that incredibly important question, because it speaks directly to the opportunities that we have before us in community and our needs to invest in how it is that we become truly an age-friendly community, and in a community that is a great place and an incredibly livable place to be if you are old or young. The work that we have to do around our housing stock, certainly the provision of accessible and affordable housing that is appropriate to one-person households, two-person households. This is an area where we have a lot of work to do, but also in the design of our public realm and community spaces, so that we're ensuring that the fabric that literally knits our neighborhoods and communities together is accessible and is supporting truly an age-friendly place.
If you want to take this next.
Okay. Yes, thank you so much for that question. I believe in equity, and equity is also inclusive of the variation in ages in this community. I think that it's so important that as we plan for the future, that we're inviting representation of the variation in age to the table, so that we can ensure that we're providing all the necessary resources and spaces to ensure that it is accessible for all. I think that would also be including having resources so that our seniors have adaptability to their homes and the ability to afford to make such changes so that their houses are conducive for them. I also want to ensure that as we look at recreational opportunities in our green spaces, that they are inclusive and reflective of the various accessibility needs that exist in our community as of now. Thank you.
Righteous word. Well, I appreciate that question, and luckily I actually addressed this in my opening statement. I do believe that as people get into retirement, it's really important to provide access to better resources so that people can maintain their homes and also their rental properties. There's a decent population of Eugene that's owned property a long time, and even as the value of the property rises over the years, expenses have gone up pretty exponentially too, both in the form of property taxes and maintenance. So I do believe that it shouldn't be so hard for the city to provide a credit for people's local property taxes to help mitigate the expense of maintenance and help retirees really have a higher quality of life in their homes for the rest of their lives, and also keep income from their rental properties. Thank you.
All right, and I'm going to ask this next question to Shanae first. If you're elected Eugene's next mayor, how will you ensure that people of all age groups, people, marginalized voices, and other people impacted by decisions are included and their voices heard in City Hall?
Yes, thank you for that question. As someone who's done quite a bit of equity work by serving on a variety of boards, such as the United Way Justice Fund, the Education Committee at JSMA, and even leading the planning for Eugene Juneteenth, I believe that it is so important that we look at who is at the table and who's not. And I want to be accessible to ensure that every voice is represented. I also want to ensure that we are not only taking in the input from our community, but that we're actually listening and executing the desire and vision for our community. I want to go out to where people are. I don't believe in just sitting and waiting for those to come into City Hall to be heard, but I believe in greater community engagement, and we need to make sure that we create multiple avenues so that we can hear every voice in this community be represented in the decisions that we're making, and that we are inclusive of the variation and voices that exist in our community.
And then Stefan, if you want to take us next.
Excellent. Well, I know from experience that Eugene has a very Athenian aspect of democracy that really strives to include all people from all walks of life. But unfortunately, that hasn't been quite as promoted recently. I really do love and respect when people come down to the city council for the public forums to share their opinions and concerns and hopes and dreams. And it's really unfortunate that the time has been cut short from 3 minutes to 2.5 recently. That's pretty disrespectful of the citizens. And I'd like to increase that time so everyone can get their concerns out and really address public issues. Thank you.
When we have more diverse and effective process, we have better and more diverse and effective outcomes. And I'm going to share a little bit about some of the work that I've done in this community over the past few years to model and test some new ways of representatively engaging our community. One of those very specific ways is through some work that the City of Eugene received grant funding and support from during our work to redesign local housing regulations. That work included essentially the assembly of a demographically representative, lottery-selected citizen review panel. And that panel set the values and the trajectory of the housing reform work that we were going to do locally. What that meant is that that group of people was demographically representative of our community. And not surprisingly, when we saw broader representation in our process upstream at a point of great influence, we saw outcomes in that process that are more representative of our community's true needs. And that is absolutely something that I would seek to continue and implement as mayor.
All right, and this next question, I will have Stefan take this first. According to this assessor's office, the median market value for a home in the city of Eugene is now more than $480,000. High housing costs have priced many current Eugene residents out of the market. If you're elected mayor, what will you do to create livable, attainable housing options for people who can't afford to buy right now?
Well, that's a great question. Oregon has some interesting and complicated zoning laws, and Eugene's not an exception. But I do think that there's a lot of consideration that goes into keeping neighborhoods really, truly livable. And one of the best things we can do is to promote increased quality of life for better job attractions. And it really hurts to see so many local businesses closing down because of crime and just disrespectful activities. We really can help everyone afford more if people feel safer and attain their best quality of life, because you can't earn money when you're miserable. Thank you.
All right, and Kaarin, you'll take this next one?
This very issue and the fact that we have a median home price that is now double what a median income in our community can afford is exactly why I've been so committed to the work that we need to do as a community to improve our housing policies and really demonstrate innovation and creativity on the ground in Eugene, in our communities. We will continue and need to continue in the years ahead to test new programs and implement new solutions that align our housing production broadly with our community's housing needs. When you think about housing, oftentimes you're thinking about two pieces of the puzzle. One of them is basic stability, right? And the need to invest in housing that solves our homelessness crisis, that provides permanent supportive housing to people who have those needs, that provides for our very low income community members who will never be able to access other housing provided within the market. The other piece of the puzzle is making sure that the housing that we are typically supplying is aligned to what our community needs and is providing stability and opportunity and financial equity through that provision. And I will continue to work on those solutions as I am right now.
Thank you. I, as a renter, am personally invested in what our housing future looks like. I would definitely want to work with boards and commissions that surround housing and looking at how are we defining affordability and ensure that is reflective of the current needs of our current residents. I also want to work with the current developers and new developers that will come into our community and look at how are we creating truly affordable housing units and making sure that we are not outpacing our rental rates of the median income that is here. We see that the Harvard study that was released last month let us know that Oregon is definitely a place where we have so many cost-burdened renters. I also want to look at our city's way of generating revenue for affordable housing through the construction excise tax and making sure that we are maximizing our capabilities to increase the funding for affordable housing units here.
All right, Kaarin, you'll take this next one. According to the annual point in time count, there are nearly 3,000 people who are experiencing homelessness in Lane County. What is a current gap in the way the region responds to homelessness? And if you're elected mayor, how would you address it?
Thank you for this question, because we have a lot of plans that have laid out very clearly for us the challenges that we face in addressing our homelessness crisis. As a person who has been working for years in our community and with many fantastic organizations as well as our cities and county partners on this issue, I can tell you that our primary challenges as they relate to homelessness have to do with the fact that our community does not have enough housing that people can afford, and we have very little vacancy, very few units of housing available. It's those two data points that create community-wide levels of homelessness like we have in Eugene. It is why I have been working in such a dedicated way on addressing our housing crisis, and also as a part of a community coalition that is working now to set a strategic plan to end homelessness. What we need is more permanent supportive housing, more units of housing that are compact and arranged in sociable ways that are affordable to people with very little income, and more housing that is in the workforce, right? Between 80% AMI and 100% AMI. We need housing units that people can transition into and that support the broad needs of our community at the same time.
Thank you for that question. I had the privilege recently, along with Kaarin, to visit some of the shelters that are here in our community. And I've made it my mission to make sure that we're listening and learning as we traverse along the city lines. And what I've learned for the need for houselessness, a lot of it is in regulation. And some of those regulations have limited how our different shelters or supported communities are able to expand the work that they're doing. I want to be sure that as a city, we are not creating the barriers to expand access for additional housing for those that are experiencing houselessness. I also want us to work together to generate additional funding. We see that a bill was recently passed and signed into law by our governor that will definitely create additional funding for those resources and those agencies. And I believe that it is so important that we make sure that when we're talking about housing, we're including not only middle housing, but also for transitional housing and community supported shelters. Thank you.
Well, it's a very difficult question, and it means a lot to me. It was only just about 12 years ago, I was personally able to rent a 3-bedroom house for $795 a month. And that was the full bill. I was able to split that with 3 other people for, about $200 each per month for a real house to live in. And now we've got new apartments being built that cost $1,000 to $1,400 for a room in a shared apartment. That's not even a private unit. So it really comes down to the definition of what is affordable housing. You can't just say anything that's cheaper than luxury housing qualifies as affordable. It needs to actually be low budget so far as affordability, and we can do that with a much higher quality than what's been done recently. There's been a lot of waste, a lot of money that's just been shredded by private corporations. And would you trust your Social Security to a private nonprofit? If no, the government can do more. Thank you.
And Shanae, you'll take this question first. If you're elected, are there any policies you would support that will improve safety and convenience for all modes of transportation, such as improving walkability in neighborhoods or creating bike and bus-friendly infrastructure?
Yes, I definitely support what is being done through the Move Eugene that was passed, and I look at, we need to start already the discussion on that levy that was created to build out our pathways and safety infrastructure. I believe that we need to continue to work with our Lane Transit District, a partner that I've worked with before, to ensure that they have what they need in order to build out additional routes and the frequency of those routes. I think even as the city, we know that they're experiencing shortage in drivers, that there's something we can do to help them promote and create transition into the pathway of the workforce. I also want to look at and ensure that we are creating additional bikes through that Peace Health program. We also saw that the electric scooters was definitely something that many community members utilized. I would look to bring that back as an opportunity for additional modes of transportation. Thank you.
And Stefan?
Yep. Righteous, thank you. So, yes, public transportation really helps everybody, and it's not so complicated to answer that question. We have a great bus system, but unfortunately the routes have really been cut back so far as neighborhood access. I mean, that's one of the first things that's going to help senior citizens is just reliability of the bus system. We can expand that and keep it going. I don't see why 24 hours a day is inaccessible. Similarly, we can get the buses going to and from the airport actually again. And I don't blame people for traveling across the country, flying here and having some hesitancy about calling a stranger off the internet to pick them up for a ride share. Why can't we just have a bus and really make Eugene a better hub? This will bring better companies with more jobs and really keep everything going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this question. It's incredibly important to the future of Eugene being an age-friendly and equitable community, how our transportation networks are structured. If you were to think of our transportation network in our community as an operating system of a computer, we are using an operating system that is from 1945 currently. It's time to upgrade that operating system to the 21st century. Multimodal transportation networks, robust transit networks, transportation systems that allow for people to walk safely to the destinations that they're in their neighborhood and nearby, that allow for people to choose to bike safely and with great delight to destinations that are just a little bit farther away, and that allow for people to use frequent, reliable buses and even drive a car to destinations that are farther. That's the future of our transportation network in this community. Investing in that transportation network is the most that we can do to address our climate goals. That is the largest area of emissions within our community, improving our transportation infrastructure. And it's also the way that we build out safety for everyone who lives here.
And Stefan, you'll take this next question first.
Solid.
Property crime ranging from bike theft to vandalism continues to be a challenge for our city. What upstream solutions would you support to prevent property crime?
Well, property crime comes in large part from desperation of a system that really steps on the people who need help most. We really have a great system with Whitebird providing assistance to people in crisis, and that really deserves another look and can be really utilized in the form it used to be. They've had a lot of cutbacks recently so far as their vans being able to respond to crisis situations. And once again, if people had housing which was actually within their budget, they wouldn't be on the streets. They wouldn't be incidentally, literally forced to commit crime to survive. It really hurts to see people that just walk in and out of the store just having to steal for a lifestyle. And there's a lot that can be done to help everybody.
Kaarin, if you...
Over this last several months, pretty much every weekend, I've been knocking on doors and talking with people on their doorsteps. I've knocked on over 500 doors across this community already, and I can tell you that when you ask for people to share their thoughts and hopes and feelings and concerns about the city of Eugene, our housing and homelessness crisis, the climate crisis, and public safety are on the top of everyone's minds. And public safety is on the top of people's minds in neighborhoods because they are seeing things like bird feeders, of course bicycles. We know bicycle theft has been an issue for a long time. But expressions of theft within their own neighborhoods that are really in conflict with the feeling we have of connection and community in Eugene. To address this issue, I am committed to working with our local business communities, with our Eugene police, with our emergency response systems, with everyone who is a part of this system to understand, why is it that we are seeing this instance of property crime? Where are we seeing it? And what can we do to compassionately but effectively address this problem, because it's something that is being felt across our community.
And thank you again for this question. What I would say is I think it's important that we do an analysis across the city to see what this crime is looking like and where is it happening most often. I think that it is important that we also look at root issues. What is the root cause why someone is seeking to commit these property crimes, and what can we do to mitigate them? And part of that would be increasing access to living wage jobs. I think that's also increased access to resources and services. That is also increasing access to shelters and housing that would relieve them from residing in some of our communities and committing those crimes in order to meet some of their basic needs and essentials. I also look to work with our city council and managers as well as our local safety officers. I think that is so important that we are better engaged in our community. I love to see our cops and officers outside of their cars and really engaging with the different residents that they are patrolling, and that they have a greater relationship. I think that when people are more visible, our officers are more visible, there's definitely greater connection, and it definitely mitigates crime in most communities.
All right, and Kaarin, you'll take this next question first. Our city has gone through several rough budget years and has had to cut back some services, such as at the library. It's very possible that if you're elected, you'll face similar challenges. What is your approach and philosophy for budgeting during hard times?
It's a great question and a very current event in that, as many people know, our city is currently facing a budget shortfall. And I'll first take a moment to thank the many volunteers who work on our city's budget committee, and also the committee members who've been a part of the revenue committee that's been meeting for these last several months to work with our city manager to prepare a recommendation for the city council and the mayor's consideration. In hard times, it's important that our community focus on the basics and on the investments in this community that deliver the most return on investment and the greatest support in our community, across the community broadly, but also to all who need it. Making sure that our public library remains accessible to people and that those services are available across our community is an incredibly important investment. We've made commitments to that with levy funding in the past several years, and it's also an extraordinary opportunity for us to reach people and to connect with other people in our community, and that's simply not available if that resource is not actually open and accessible. So I'm absolutely committed to continuing to support that funding and to also doing the hard work to understand how our budget reflects our priorities.
Shanae?
Yes, similar to you, Kaarin, we're definitely concerned about our current budget deficit. As we know, even in some of our households currently, there are some of us having those hard conversations about how are we going to make ends meet, how are we going to provide the essentials, and I think that would translate even to what is happening with us in our local governance. We need to do a great analysis of the services that are being offered and really take a hard look, as it has been said, what is going to invoke some needs for the most and meet the needs of most in our community. And let's prioritize those things, especially ensuring that all essentials are being provided. I will say I'm slightly biased about the library. If you go into the children's section of the library, you'll see a book vending machine that the program I coordinated provided in order to expand access to books that were free to members in the community. But I want to preserve also the employment of city members, because I would look at our city employees as not just employees, they're residents. And I think that we also should consider them when we are doing a review of the budget. And so I look to work with our city manager to ensure those essentials are being met. Thank you.
It's an excellent question. And the budget is, simply put, it's been mismanaged. The city has, to my recollection, it's in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And there's no reason that we can't have adequate services for that level of just pure hard cash. The city has a lot of money. We're one of the richest cities in the world. There's no reason we can't have a 24-hour library with access that's for people who have their library cards. People cause crime and disruption, they lose their privileges, but it shouldn't be that hard to get a night librarian and really have the staff on hand so that people going to school here, anyone who just needs a place to hang out, read some books, and get some coffee can really appreciate our city and keep it safe. It's simple budgeting, and I'm incredibly offended at the amount of waste that I see on projects that are really overspent on without a good return. Thank you.
All right, Shanae, you'll have this next question first. All right. Eugene voters will soon decide on a tax that would support building a stadium for the Eugene Emeralds baseball team. What's your position on the city of Eugene financially supporting that project?
Thank you. What I would say in response to that is that I appreciate what the Eugene Emeralds have provided to our community as a recreational outlet for so many. I've even had the ability to engage with them in their planning for Jackie Robinson observance. And so what I would say is that we are in a budget deficit currently, and I believe that we need to meet the needs of the communities and provide all the essentials for our residents. And I would support that we are levying our taxes, our tax base, to ensure that we are prioritizing the needs of the city and the community first. The fact that we also have lost a health center in our community, and we need to prioritize that. I think that is more essential to our community and our base. And I look forward to see what else can be offered to keep them in our community. But our money needs to go to meeting the needs of our community right now.
Stefan?
I'm a bit skeptical on the project. How many stadiums does one city really need? And maybe there's a better location. I don't want to say they don't deserve a stadium at all, but it's like somebody breaks their things and then just wants a new one. I mean, the M's had a stadium, and they said it didn't pencil out. I'd really like to see more, it would be a different conversation talking directly to the people in charge of the project. And from what I've heard, there's better options to make this happen for everybody. And I'm also concerned about our ice skating rink. It's a really underappreciated part of Eugene. And I'd like to make sure that more people are able to appreciate the ice rink going forwards. And that can also be a much better utilized part of our city. Thank you.
I'm going to answer this question very briefly and then go back to two other points from previous questions. Just last night, the City Council of Eugene made the decision to put that question about the M Stadium onto the ballot in May, so that will also be a decision in front of voters on May 21st, and I would encourage everyone to vote and be engaged in that election coming up just 2 months pretty much from now. The other two things that I just wanted to say, though, with my remaining time, is that it's important for the mayor to share accurate information and also build bridges of understanding across our community. And when we speak about the richness of this community, that is absolutely true. But we also have about 45 to 50% of our community that is actively engaged in the social safety net or in poverty. And the wealth of this community is in our relationships to one another, in the ways in which we organize in community, the ways in which we prioritize and focus. And certainly there is financial wealth here, but when you look at our wages in comparison to Oregon and across the country, you would not conclude that we are among the wealthiest cities. And it's important to keep that in mind as we're thinking about our financial decisions, our investments, and our priorities.
I'm going to ask you a quick follow-up, Kaarin. I guess, is this something that you feel like city resources should support, or is up to voters? I guess, where do you land on this question?
So that it has been put to voters. My understanding from the city council decision just last night is that the M Stadium will be on the ballot. There will be a question for City of Eugene voters for a $15 million investment in that stadium. That would be packaged with funding coming from the state that the legislature allocated, I think $7.5 million. And then there will also be a concurrent or parallel or trailing ask to Lane County for an additional $35 million in funding and land for that stadium. So there are several layers to this decision, but it will absolutely be in front of voters on the same ballot as you're choosing your next mayor.
All right, and then as I'm going to ask, I think Stefan, you'll get this next question first. As climate change brings more severe weather like ice storms and wildfires, what would you do as mayor to make our city and our region more resilient and more effective when responding to climate emergencies?
Once again, that's a very important but also very complicated question. It also really comes down to the mismanagement that our city's experienced. Government buildings and government property, which really should be available and put to use for all of the people who live here, have just simply been underutilized. For example, the LCC building was sold off, and simply put, it's a great location. We could have done more with that. Similar with the steam plant being sold for $1. If it's profitable for someone to privately buy that and put the investment in for private use, why couldn't this land have been used for public benefit? And going forward with the new city hall, which we haven't had for over 9 years now because the project was mismanaged, we really should have a central building that serves a purpose for emergencies and is properly outfitted, which simply hasn't been done. Thank you.
And Kaarin?
Could you repeat the question?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. As climate change brings more severe weather like ice storms and wildfires, what would you do as mayor to make our city and our region more resilient against climate disasters?
Thank you. This is a great question. And in my practice as someone who's focused on sustainable urban design, this is central to the work that we have before us. In years past, we've talked about climate change for, maybe a couple of decades or a generation as something that is out there, far distant, right? Ice caps, maybe a far distant country that is going to experience significant change to their shores due to sea level rise. What we will be seeing into this next quarter of the 21st century are the localized impacts, the extreme weather events that come with climate change. That will mean that we as a community will be challenged to both address recurring immediate emergencies, ice storms, droughts, heat domes, flooding, the whole seasonal range, which goes along with the extreme Oregon experiences. We'll be challenged to address those emergencies that are immediate while also steering towards a future that is more sustainable and resilient and enacting long-term change. I'm committed to leading that work in our community. I know that we can do it, but it's going to take focus, and it's going to take the effort of this whole community to engage in protecting all of our residents from that future.
Thank you. As I reflect on the work that I've done to create resources and opportunities in this community, it has taken a lot of collaboration. I think to adequately address the growing impacts of climate change in our community, it's going to take us collaborating not only with the city, the county, at the state level, and ensuring that all stakeholders are brought to the table, that we are meeting our goals. I do want to applaud the work that was done with the Climate Action Plan, and we're now I want to ensure that we are meeting our emissions goals by 2030, but it's going to take action, it's going to take work. It's going to have us review a lot of policies that are already in existence, but also the creation of policies to make sure that we are creating a sustainable living environment that is equitable and healthy for everyone. I also want to consider those neighborhoods that are greatly impacted by pollutant industries, such as the Bethel area, and looking at how can we create a buffer between residential areas and those industries that are creating additional pollutants that are impacting even youth even the more. Thank you.
And Kaarin, you'll take this next question first. Last year, Eugene lost its only emergency room, which put a little bit of a greater burden on emergency response here in the city. If you're elected mayor, how might you help the city adapt to not having an emergency room here in Eugene?
Thank you. This is a really important question, and I would say it's not just a little bit of a burden on our population center in Eugene and South Eugene, but a significant change, and one that is really going to challenge our community to level up and to build new partnerships and to look at how we can specifically meet the needs and fill the gap that hospital emergency room was filling within our community. I know from just a few months ago in a conversation at the City Club of Eugene how important that location has been to our college residents in this community, and as an accessible location for emergency services specifically related to sexual violence. It's incredibly important that we close that gap. It is already difficult for people to access those services, and especially for women to access the support that they need in a time of trauma. Behavioral health, mental health support for our neighbors who are experiencing homelessness. These are also burdens that emergency room was helping our community to carry, and we are going to have to close the gap. That will mean new partnerships. It will mean thinking about how clinics can expand or specific clinics can be offered, but it will be the work of the next 10 years to build back that support.
Thank you. I would say that even in my time being here, I benefited from having that hospital downtown because I actually reside downtown and had to utilize services there. So I personally feel the loss and the gap of not having such an essential service for so many in our community. I think that it's going to take, again, that collaborative effort to look at what health resources are currently in existence and work together to leverage those resources and look at what is needed to help some expand. In the interim, while we are going to have to court another agency, another opportunity to restore such an essential service into our community, I look at the impact of having to travel even further for emergency services, especially for those who lack transportation, who lack access to get there, or the cost of using an ambulance. I think we have to be considerate of the great impact of such a great loss, but I know that we can leverage the resources we have together in order to engage in a conversation to restore the existence of a local hospital with an emergency room here.
That's an important question, really, because it affects everyone who's going to live here long-term or short-term. It's very rare that nobody has an emergency related to their health in their entire lives. But fortunately, we have a variety of healthcare providers in Eugene, and it shouldn't be so difficult to open up the conversation for someone to fill that missing but vital and very necessary role in the community. Whether it's Peace Health or another group, I believe this is something that we can definitely bring to the table, and with a positive attitude, really replace the downtown emergency center with something that's up to date and better for everyone involved, not just the providers and the staff, but the whole city. It just takes a conversation, and I'm ready and happy to do that. Thank you.
All right. I'll ask one last question, and then we'll go to our closing statements. Shanae, you'll get this one first. Oh, sorry. If you were elected, let's say you were elected mayor starting in January, what is your first priority when you get into office? What is the first thing that you want to address if you're elected as Eugene's mayor?
Thank you for that question. It's funny, it's a question that I've asked when engaging with folks is what would you like to see as priority for me in those first 30, 60 days in office? I think the first thing I want to tackle is internally. I want to look at our executives and those who are actually on the ground doing the work and really do analysis of what is taking place, what is needed in our community, and how can we serve more, do more, and also that includes revising our budget and looking at our priorities. I want to engage with those who are currently doing the work in the first 30 days, those who have been tasked and assigned to do the day-to-day running of our city, and having that conversation with our city manager is going to help prioritize what the days after those first 30 look like. Thank you.
And Stefan will get this one next, and then we'll finish with Kaarin.
I appreciate that thought. I do believe strongly that the first and most hard-hitting priority is to really help people have the best lives in their homes possible. There's still a lot of people who have damage to their homes from the ice storm recently and are just using tarps to seal up their leaking roofs. And they don't have the finances necessary to take care of that for the future. And it's going to start raining again before people know it. So I think one thing the city can do right off the bat is to accommodate senior citizens, especially, with a tax credit for home repairs to help mitigate the cost of their local property taxes. It's really just something that is simple and everyone should be able to agree to. Thank you.
Eugene's mayor has a unique set of responsibilities, and a big part of that responsibility is helping our community to walk into its future and leading with values and vision for our future. When I talk with people all around this community, there is no question that addressing our housing and homelessness crisis is the #1 concern. It's the #1 issue on people's minds. And I'm absolutely committed through all of 2024 and beginning on January of 2025 to working to announce new housing initiatives, to put new programs in place, to develop stronger partnerships with our county and state partners, because that is how we address the structural crisis that is presented through our housing. It's how we help people who are homeless. It's how we build a stronger foundation for every individual and family that is chosen to make this place their home and wants to grow their dreams here. And it will absolutely be my focus in this work. The mayor is a part of the conversation in everything that the city does. The mayor builds bridges. The mayor helps us to step forward with confidence and with compassion. And I am absolutely committed to doing that work, beginning with housing.
All right, and now we'll go to our closing statements determined by pieces of paper drawn out of a hat.
Thank you. I just again want to thank you all for being present and listening to what we have to say. I want to say, as someone seeking to be the mayor of this city, that I am here and I put my hat in the ring because I am passionate about this community. I am passionate about people and I'm passionate about serving. And it is evident in the work that I've done in my entire lifetime. I come from a family of service, the folks that are very philanthropic, and I have brought that here to Eugene. I've created access to opportunities and resources for so many youth, young adults, and families in this community. I've been able to establish partnerships with the health center, with our city of Eugene, with many mental health clinicians and even higher ed institutions in order to bridge some gaps that are clearly still in existence. I want to do that work, but I cannot do it alone. My motto for this campaign is moving Eugene forward. In order to move Eugene forward, it requires forward thinking and forward moving. And I know that I offer the fresh perspective to move us from stagnation to actionable steps. Thank you so much.
Stefan is next, and then I think we'll close out with Kaarin.
Thank you kindly. I really want everyone to think about the future and just how much work this city has to do to protect everybody, whether it's a senior citizen living alone with a leaky roof up on the hills. Just because someone's got property that's worth money doesn't mean they have money like Jeff Bezos. The average, about 60% of people making over 6 figures live paycheck to paycheck. Whether you make thousands or millions of dollars a year, paycheck to paycheck means you don't have extra money. Whether it's people who are dealing with homelessness, drug abuse, crime, this is a big job to fix everything. This is a city that has many crises ongoing. And it's going to be a lot of work, not just for the mayor, but for everybody. And I want to encourage everybody, literally starting today, hold people in government accountable for what they say they're going to do. We can all go down to the city hall, or city council, and the city hall once it happens, and advocate for yourselves and for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you all for this time here together today. Eugene is looking into a future that is filled with significant opportunities and challenges, and I believe confidently that we can rise to meet them. Deep concerns for sustainability and equity are what brought me to my career as an architect, and they are foundational to my decision to run for mayor. I've dedicated the past several years of my life to helping us take meaningful action to address a complex and unjust housing crisis. As mayor, I am committed to continuing that work. And I understand that our public spaces are the fabric that knits our neighborhoods and community together. And so I'll work to make sure that our city's parks and open spaces are well maintained and safe and accessible to everyone, so that they can provide the restoration and recreation and biodiversity and beauty that they were designed to support. And I will commit to working always to support new partnerships in this community, to be creative and innovative, so that we ensure that we have a sustainable, healthy, thriving local economy, where workers and families and local businesses have what they need to succeed. We are now 2 months from this election in May. I hope to earn your vote to be Eugene's next mayor, and thank you very much for your time here today.
All right, thank you so much, candidates.
One more round of applause for our moderator and our candidates today. Thank you. This has been our March 15th conversation at the City Club of Eugene. Thank yous this week to Sierra Pacific for hosting the Industry for Educators class this week. Next week, Collaborative EDO will host the final session of the class. Next week, on Wednesday, March 20th, the Sustainability Commission meeting will be hosting presentations on the Recycling Modernization Act and Urban Growth Strategy, so tune in to learn more about the recycling program changes that will start next year. City Club will be back at our usual location, home at the Maple Room, next Friday, March 22nd. We'll be discussing another important issue that will be on your ballot this May, a proposal to change the way Eugene elects its leaders to star voting. See you all then. Thank you.